So I'm a relatively new Salesforce admin, and my colleagues on the ops team are more senior and experienced. We're growing quickly, but underinvested in standardizing processes. Any suggestions for how best to convince my team that we need to adopt a more formal DevOps process? So to me, the scenario says my company hasn't invested in the right resources yet. I'm a sole Salesforce admin. I really need my folks who are, it sounds like, most likely making config changes in the system. How do I start with introducing these commandments, introducing these best practices we've started with? Any advice to anonymous attendee?
It's hard, right? And I think partly because the beauty, I think the thing I love about Salesforce, and probably the thing I hate most about Salesforce, is that it's really accessible to people, right? It's accessible to base end users, and there's somebody with a little bit of knowledge can be very, very dangerous, in the platform overall. It like one thing I often ask people is like, well, what do you want to be doing with your free time? Do you or your time at work? Do you want to be supporting things that got broken? Do you want to be supporting? You want to be ticket takers? You just want to look at every random request that comes in from the business and not examine whether or not you should or should do it? Or do you really want to be an engineering organization? And that's, are you an administrator? Are you a developer? Are you an architect? What are you, and what do you want your organization to be? And how do you manage the work that's coming in? And previous positions, as I grew my team, it was part of what we had to do to put some process around this was to really understand with the business that we aren't ticket takers, right? We're not just here to serve you. We're also here to serve the organization and the enterprise. And I think it's a lot of stakeholders, because of the accessibility of Salesforce, come to us with their solutions already in their head, right? And you need to sort of take a step back and really try to understand what the outcomes are, and then pivot towards achieving those outcomes for your business stakeholders and having that, having that dialogue with them, standardizing the process and making sure everybody's on the same page. It's one of these things that I think is probably self-evident to us as technologists, but it's really, what are the pain points you're trying to address within your organization, and what are you going to do? What are you going to institute in order to solve them and mitigate them?
Great. Any other thoughts on that one?
I'd totally start with ticketing. If you don't have an organized way of saying, when you say fix it, how do I break that down into useful, packets? So, very much the idea I was going for with my commandments is that they kind of move in progress through the, what you need to do in your organization. So first and foremost, if the people you're reporting to don't believe in Salesforce, they want you to just go do it, you're dealing with an untenable situation there. Fine. Okay, great. Let's say they believe in Salesforce raw. What's the next thing you do? Collect the requests and put them into organized packets so that you can start attacking them. You can have a productive conversation. Hey, should I be working on ticket number 3 or ticket number 4? That kind of thing. And then the next commandment beyond that was gather requirements. These are the kinds of things that help you say, blow by blow, if I'm getting requests and I'm not allowed to break them down into something handleable and granular, well, that's an unworkable situation. We need to be able to do that. If once you give me a request, you don't let me ask the questions that determine what your requirements are, that too is an unworkable situation. So these are the kinds of things. Ticketing the requests you get or the needs, being able to break them down into requirements, those are the kinds of things that I would do first. And whether it's in a spreadsheet, Jira, tickets in Salesforce, cases in Salesforce, those are the initial things I would do to get a foothold and start being able to create stuff that, Brian, you talked about proactively monitoring. If you can't know what your tickets are, if you can't be measured on how you're delivering, there's certainly no way you're ever going to be able to monitor. So I'd start with identify them and break them down.
Right.
Yeah, I think the big thing is what, again, it's like, if everything's an emergency, then nothing is, right. And the intake process and standardizing that so that you can focus on the most important things. It's really trying to understand with your business stakeholders, having a prioritization process in order, like Ezra was intimating, like understanding what the requests are, what's going to provide the most value, right? And why should I work on this versus this? Is it just because somebody's screaming louder over here than this person? Well, whatever this business unit may want, it may actually be more important and actually provide more tangible value to the organization as a whole. And you need to change them. And again, like I said, it's because the platform is so accessible, you can do so many things so quickly. Doesn't mean that you should do them or that you don't need to manage the risk that introducing those changes are going to have on your ecosystem.
Great. Awesome. We've got a question from Linda Sermons, and I think she might be typing it in the box, but I'll take it from the chat.